Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Training Unleashed. You're going to love this one because this one's going to be about you. Yeah, you. We're going to help you be a better presenter and maximize your charisma. We're also going to talk about horses. This should be a lot of fun. Before we begin, let me start by thanking you, the audience, for being here on behalf of the Learning Network. I also want to thank C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio for hosting the show. And now, of course, you can check us out on YouTube. With me today is Sandra Dee Robinson, charisma coach and human horse liaison. Now, I know you all want me to go into the human horse liaison first, but we're going to do that second because Sandra Dee has an amazing background. We are talking about someone who's in a beauty pageant at 17, so on a soap opera. So tell us about the beauty pageant. Tell us about the soap opera, but tell us about how it helped you understand the importance of charisma and help bring you to where you are today.
Oh my goodness, you did your homework with the Miss Pennsylvania pageant. A lot of people don't know about that. Yes, that took me at the age of 17. I was a senior in high school, barely in high school, because I should have graduated early, but for some reason I stuck around and I skipped 85 days that senior year because I was in the pageant and I was bored in school. So 30 of those days of my senior year in high school, I was doing promotions for the Miss USA pageant and I was in the pageant itself. So I think it's run a little differently now, but you know, that was for that pageant was the first time that I was ever away from home on my own. And it also threw me into an environment, which I think was a great training for so many other things later in life. I'm just realizing this now. I was the youngest in the entire competition.
Wow.
So the girl that won was just about to turn 26, and they were concerned that she was too old to be eligible. They were concerned I was too young. And I was raised in a rather sheltered environment. So I was coming from, you know, a small town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I was really thrown into the fire. You know, if you've ever taken a job that you thought, I don't know if I'm ready for this, that was my first experience with that. And I was 17, you know, but
Did your
it was
parents not go with you?
My parents came to Florida. The pageant itself, Miss USA, was in Florida. So they came to the pageant. But there was a week before that we were getting video and, you know, doing TV segments.
So you were in the you made it to the US competition?
Yes. Yes. So the national
Wow.
competition. Yeah. They came with me to the Pennsylvania competition. I did pageants for all of 2 years and I had 3 titles and 1 runner up. But if I could lose to Halle Berry, I guess that was okay. So
Oh my God.
that's how I met Halle. And Halle and I introduced Halle to my talent agent in New York. And so she and I really were with Vince for all of those years. I mean, 17 until I was 17 when I met him, and because I met him during my reign of Miss Pennsylvania. So
I'm going to ask you an odd
ago.
question, really off topic, but
Yeah.
to me, I think this is an interesting question. How much pressure do you feel in life? I mean, I am sure that some of our listeners are going, okay, I want to go to the YouTube network, you know, Training Unleashed network on YouTube because I want to see what she looks like because she was.
Yeah.
How much pressure does it put on you to have to look a certain way?
Well, I didn't really feel any of that until now. Now I'm envisioning everybody going, wait a second, what does she look like? I think, and that's actually, I'm proud of myself for not even thinking about that until you said it, because that was a huge focus for me. Growing up, it was not easy. I had a mother that really focused on appearances and how it made her look. So I had a lot of pressure to be perfect. And as anybody knows, and I work with people and explain perfection is overrated. The best bit of advice I ever got was in the acting business anyway, was an acting teacher that saw me trying to be perfect during class one time. And I was trying to do a scene perfectly because that's what I thought I was going to be rewarded for. And he blew me up in front of the whole class. And I left in tears and I was just disheveled and felt terrible. And he said to me, stop trying to be perfect. People are drawn to the brokenness in each other. That is human nature. And then he went on to berate me. But that piece of information that he gave me was something that I built my coaching practice on. Because when you actually adopt that and go, wow, that's true. Think about our pop culture icons, the biggest ones, right? Like I used to mention Angelina Jolie, Marilyn Monroe, James Dean. There was always something, even Kevin Costner, right? There's something a little broken.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. They're all beautiful, but there's something broken that we are attracted to. And that is what we should be free to talk about, to experience, to show, because that's what's really going to be able to connect people to us.
So I am going to share something with you and the audience that I don't think I've ever shared with anybody. And I definitely have not shared this with my wife. But I had a lesson at my prom. So I asked this girl out to the prom, and she wasn't dating anyone at the time. And when I got to the prom, she told me she was back with her old boyfriend. And that was a little defeating.
Yeah.
But what amazed me was that her old boyfriend, and I'm just saying this subjectively, wasn't a super attractive guy. But you know what he was? He had a lot of charisma and self-confidence. He came off because there's more to physical appearance than how you look, but it's how you feel, it's how you act, it's how you share,
Yes.
which
And when I was working in soaps, that's beautiful what you just said. And I have similar stories like that. Working in soap operas where everybody looks so beautiful. Mostly it's lighting. Just want people to know there's a secret. I learned it, and I always befriended the lighting people on the shows that I worked on. but there is something almost poisonous about, if you will let it, about sitting in an environment where everybody is so beautiful, especially if you came from this low self-esteem background that I had come
yeah,
from, that kind of tortured, you're never good enough. If I got an A, if I got the second best grade in the class, I was like, why didn't she get the top grade? I would not, you don't get every audition you go for. So I started in front of the camera when I was 11. I was still living with my parents. And if I didn't get an audition or get a job, they'd say, what'd you do wrong?
yeah. Not like
So
congratulations for getting an audition, because that's so hard to get.
like it is actually that right there is an accomplishment, right? To get the interview is an accomplishment. And not everybody is going to win the pageant. Not everybody's going to get the job. Not everybody's going to get the role. And it just means that it wasn't your time if those things are happening. But I was not taught that. I was taught that every time that I failed, it was because I wasn't good enough. So I'm sitting in a room, in a makeup room with these individuals that are just stunning human beings. They're all very good looking people. And I had a makeup artist that, while she was not unattractive, she openly talked about the cellulite on her legs, and she would show it. And she had a case. It was kind of bad. I mean, it was a thing that she was dealing with. And she joked about it, and she was the most confident person. She had more guys asking her out. And I remember that being such a lesson for me, that I'm sitting there watching these beautiful people go like this in the mirror about when they're going to get their next nose job, when they're going to get their implants, and
Yeah,
this girl that is just saying, hey, here's what I am, like it or not, let's go out and have fun, constantly had guys taking her out and taking her on trips. And it was just, for me, it was a great lesson. Exactly what you just said. It wasn't that she was the most beautiful person in the room, but she loved herself. She loved her experience of life and just wanted to share it. And what a charismatic thing that is. It's
yeah.
beautiful.
So leads us to charisma. You're a charisma coach.
Yes.
What in the world is a charisma coach?
It's a crazy name, isn't it? It's a crazy title. I was actually being
Not crazy,
interviewed.
not crazier than basically being a horse whisperer, but but anyhow,
A horse human liaison.
I
So I did
know.
my
I
own
just
version.
shortened it to horse
Yeah.
whisperer.
Well, I was being interviewed on a daytime talk show, and when I watched it back later on, they had put my name up and put charisma coach, and I thought, well, that's tacky. And I was like, well, wait, that is kind of what I do. And it's alliteration, which I like. So I kept it, and it did sort of stick, because my first company is called Charisma on Camera. And so all of my programs had the word charisma in it one way or the other. So it worked out great. And charisma really is something that we all have and it's there if we recognize it and we step into how we are designed with a capital D, right? How we are built to be. And we're okay with that, much like going back to my acting coach, right? Stop trying to be what you think is perfect, because that's not who you are. So to really step into that brave state of being authentic and listening, that's the other half of it. Really listening to what's going on around you, listening to the people that you're with, giving them the honor and attention to be present. That is charisma. That's what's going to draw the people to you, to your business, to your product, more than anything else. If you think about the people that you love to work with, that's who those people are going to be described as.
This is fascinating, because what I'm hearing you say is charisma happens when you focus on the person you're talking to.
Yes.
It doesn't happen because you've got an exciting facial look and you look like a happy person. So why don't you, because look at our audience, this is Training Unleashed. This is how to unleash the power of training. What tips could you give to our people that, and I bet almost everyone in our audience in some fashion or another presents. Maybe it's just at a meeting, sometimes in front of a group of people, maybe it's doing training.
Yeah.
For sure they're presenting to their friends and they don't think about it that way in their family.
Yes.
But what tips can you give our audience to improve their charisma?
Well, first thing is, it does start with your energy. It starts with when you said it's not just because you have that smile and good facial features. It's not so much about the facial features as it is that energy, that smile. So even if I'm coaching somebody to do, to guest on a podcast or to start a podcast that's only audio, I always tell them, like, smile. If you're doing an interview and you're only on the phone, smile, because we can tell it changes the way you sound. It changes the way you hold yourself. And that changes the energy that is around you. And yeah, we will get to the horse stuff, but part of the nature-based trainings is to see the results in nature of you stepping into the present moment and accepting who you are and being settled with that. And that's when it's really easy to smile. And that is going to be the first thing about attracting people to you. And
they teach people who are on the phone a lot to smile.
Yes.
Because people can hear a smile, which I think is interesting to say, but they can hear a smile.
It's true.
So tell us more. We're all looking to get
be better.
The advanced course.
Yeah. Well, before we even get to advanced, I was going to say that when I started training people on camera, Charisma on Camera was launched really with the idea I was going to help people be great on camera. I'd been teaching television hosts. And so I ended up doing it for free for the woman that hired me, because she didn't run the business all that well. Shows you, if you're doing something for free, then you must enjoy doing it. And so I would show up because I didn't want to leave the clients hanging. I felt like they had potential. I wanted them to go on and book and build careers around this. And so I did. I showed up and I taught them. I used that same thing when I started teaching people to do video for their business, which is smile more than you think you ever need to. And they would look at me like, that's crazy. Number one, smiling makes you look younger. It increases your energy. So it's the number one thing to make you look attractive, is to smile. So that was my number one thing. I would say smile more than you think you have to, because what inevitably happens, if I put someone on camera, they'll watch it back and they'll go, I thought I was smiling so much more, or I thought I was smiling the whole time.
Ever feel like your training sessions are getting a little old, a little tired? Want to add some excitement with some extended reality, virtual reality, augmented reality, 360 training? Well, you can do that today with the Learning Network. Your employees can immerse themselves in real-world scenarios, boosting engagement, more importantly, increasing knowledge retention. Learn more today by going to learning.net and book a demo and learn all about extended reality training. The time is now. So I'm
And they
going to ask you a question you may not have the answer for, but I like to take risks.
go.
I have noticed that some people have a natural frown or a natural smile, and
Yes.
they've built up muscle memory that causes them to either be smiling or frowning.
Yep.
I think I'm lean towards a smile, but sometimes have a flat look. I like to smile, but if somebody sort of naturally isn't a smiler,
Right.
what can they do? I mean, literally, physically, or whatever. How do they change and become a smiler? And by the way, you
Wow.
have a fabulous smile. Another
Thank you.
reason to come to the YouTube channel.
Come see what she looks like. Please be nice. No, uh, that actually is such a great question. I have never been asked that. So what comes to mind is I have a pastor that I adore. He's a friend of ours, but I also worked with him when he launched his church because I did a personal branding assessment with him. I was just getting into that, and I said, "Can I try this with you? Since you're starting your church, do you want to know how people see you?" And he went, "Yeah, that'd be great." So one of his issues that he talks about, by the way, the personal branding thing was quite funny how it worked out, but it was right on. And it's how he's built his church, understanding that people love these two aspects of him. And that's exactly what he puts forward. So it's been fantastic to watch him do that. But he has something that he calls, as I'm sure people have heard this, RBF, resting bitch face.
Yeah. Okay.
What makes it harder is he's a pastor, right?
Yeah.
And he's also he was nearly recruited. He said no, which sometimes he talked about this going on, what if, but he said no, but he was nearly recruited by the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a big dude. Okay,
Yeah.
like he has a friend that comes to church on occasion that is a WW2 wrestler, big dude.
WWE.
That right there. Yeah, okay. Now that the fans of the wrestling world are going, she's an idiot. Sorry, not my scene, but they're the same size. So just picture this guy with his RBF. And he will gladly say, he's like, I can scare the bejesus out of people at the grocery store, right? That's not his natural thing, is not to be lit up. He has trained himself to do that. He has trained himself to realize, oh, I don't want to scare people, and to soften that expression. The best way to do that is how I used to work with people whenever they'd get on camera. I would just say, smile more than you think you have to. Smile even though you think it feels fake. You watch those pageants. You started talking about the pageants. These girls are smiling all the time. You know what's really happening? Our lips are getting dried out and stuck on our front teeth. That's what's happening. But you look at it and you see something that is pleasant to look at. There is a way that you can train yourself to actually reset that and to have a softer expression. When you're working with horses, that's actually something that they teach you. Soften your eyes, because it makes a difference to how the horse perceives you. It makes a difference to how people perceive you.
In telemarketing, they will literally have you look at a mirror of yourself while talking on the phone
Yes,
to
that
train
helps.
people to smile.
That's a great way to do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great way to do it. And you
I am
become very
so conscious right now of whether I'm smiling or not smiling. It's terrible. So we're going to switch now to human horse liaison.
yeah.
Now, that is a serious title.
Yes, I guess it is.
And, I actually love horseback riding. I very rarely do it. I'm not in a good place, like physically, to do it. My wife isn't into doing it. So I typically, like on a vacation on an island or something, will go
Yeah.
horseback riding. Um, so I love horses, but what in the world does this mean to you that you're a human horse liaison? And why should people care? And I don't mean
Yeah.
it like they shouldn't. I know they should.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, this is great, but I'm going to start by switching things around on you, Evan.
go for
Wh-
it. I love it.
Why did you say I love horseback riding? What is
Well,
what is your
I
memory of it?
I love being in one with the animal itself and the communication skills that come when um, you're embracing the animal, and it gets to know you, you get to know it, totally nonverbal.
Wow. You are a very rare person that would on occasion be a rider and seek that connection. So I want to honor you for that, because that to me shows that you respect other beings, people, as well as animals, and you went for that connection, because that's what horses do. They, among other things that make this work that I do with the horses and leaders so effective, they do seek to connect. And if the people say, well, I don't like horseback riding because the horse took off on me, I hear that a lot. I get people that are terrified. And I've had that. I had that happen to me, right? My very first experience with a pony when I was little was took off on me, and I got scared and threw myself off of it. I wasn't going to stick around for the ride and end up in Ohio, you know? So it was like, I got off. So I get what that fear is like, but I also now understand that that horse was looking to connect and I wasn't available. So that was unsafe. So they're gone. People do the same thing. If we meet somebody, and I give this example all the time, for anybody that's lived in LA, they'll get it. There was a Los Angeles greeting, particularly people that are in the industry that I was in for so many years. And I'm not the only one that talks about this, so I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. But there's a way when you go to a party or a networking event, if you want to call it that, you put out your hand, they'll say, hi, nice to meet you. And they're looking over your shoulder, not even looking in your eyes, looking over your shoulder, not connecting at all, because they want to see if there's a bigger, better deal walking through the door. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
And how does that make you feel?
Yes.
Crappy. What is the inside? What happens to the energy inside of you? I'm going to guess, for me, I'll tell you, it shrinks a little bit. And I want out of there. I want to leave the conversation. It's the same thing that goes on if somebody walks into an arena in my trainings with the horses and tries to be something they're not, or isn't interested in connecting, or in the case of riding, trail riding, doesn't want to connect with the animal, just wants it to act like a motorcycle and take it where they want to go, take them where they want to go. It's the same reaction of the other sentient being. They want out. They don't want to be in the relationship. If you're not really going to be present, they don't want to be there. So that's what a lot of this training with the human horse liaison is all about. So I discovered this, oh gosh, years and years ago. I was speaking at a conference, and it was either before or after my keynote. I walked around the conference sales area, you know, where they have the booth set up and people can sell their programs and things. So I was walking around, I see a woman that has something that was interesting on her sign, come over to meet her. And she's mentioned horses, and she goes, oh, you love horses? She goes, you have to come meet my friend. Crazy longer story for another day, but I end up meeting this woman who works with children that are rescued from all around the world. They're rescued from sex trafficking, some of the most horrific childhoods that you could ever imagine. And she brings them to this farm, and part of their rehabilitation is horse therapy. Never knew this existed. Met them, had an incredible, awesome experience, left going, God, I know this had something to do with me, but I don't know what. A full year goes by before I get introduced to the fact that there is equine assisted learning, equine assisted coaching. It doesn't have to just be for heavy traumatic situations, but people can actually learn from them. And like, wait, what is this magical thing? And I go through several different facilitators that I work with, several different facilitators that I work with. And I experience this, and I start to realize that there's a lot of richness here. There's a lot of things that we can really learn about how to show up well as a human being. And when we are better human beings, we're better leaders. If we're better leaders, then everybody that we are training beneath us by just being near them and managing them or running our company, we are then teaching them how to be better humans, who will then grow up to be better leaders. And same with the family or the community groups that you're working with. So it's my honor to work with leaders in the way that I work with them in doing the retreats, because that's my hope, is that I'm a small little influence in how they may be relating to people when they leave these connection sessions with the horses, and they carry that into the real world and into their leadership and their family and their community.
So Sandra Dee, this is the perfect transition, because I am sure my audience wants to know more about what you do and how you connect. By now, they've determined that you do something with horses, but I know you do a lot of other things,
Yeah,
and not everybody in the audience is going to be able to meet you with horses
true.
and do something with horses,
True.
although many I'm sure would like to. But tell us about your coaching, your businesses, the things that you do, because I'm sure our audience would love to know.
Yes, I know we're sitting here talking about pageants and TV and coaching people on camera and horses. So how does it all show up together? What I specialize in really is communication and self-leadership. So whether I'm teaching people the charisma of being able to speak on camera, to be interviewed, and this is the work that I can do with people all over the world. It doesn't matter where you are. Most of that is done virtually. And I can fly in if somebody is, doing a keynote and they've never done it before. My favorite, like the big boost for me is to take somebody who's never heard their voice in a microphone and have them keynote at a conference and knock it out of the park. Or have somebody that has never been interviewed before that has the opportunity to be interviewed on a network TV show, and they do it and the producer thinks they've done it their whole life. That's a super high for me personally. So I love to work with people doing those things. And I have group coaching that's starting up. So by the time that this airs, that may already be in place. I do personal coaching with people all over the world. And that I've been doing since 2010. So in 2018, I got introduced to the equus part of this, the equine influence onto humans and how we show up. And I started partnering with my horses in 2019. So I partner with my horses. I also do retreats and collaborations with organizations and other leaders. So I have one coming up with C-Suite, actually, with Jeffrey Hayes, the founder of C-Suite. And hopefully we're going to be repeating this every 6 months. So we're doing something that's coming up that's going to be in Utah, at a beautiful lodge in Utah. Those are not my horses. I'm working with somebody else's herd at that point. So I just show up early. I get to know their personalities, and I know what I'm working with. And then we step into putting the leaders with them and partnering individuals with individual horses. And so we teach them about how to make a decision, how to tap into their intuition, how to be present in the moment, how to respond and not react. So there's emotional regulation. There's understanding how to set boundaries, physical, personal, and emotional boundaries. So there's a lot of conversation, even on your previous shows, about what it means to have an emotionally safe environment. All of those things can be explored in a very safe environment with the horses. So that's one of the reasons that I like to do the nature-based stuff. But I always love working with people and helping them show up in their best self, whether they're leading a team or they're going to be
Do
on
you
camera.
occasionally work with leadership teams?
Yes.
'Cause I know when in, I'm in corporate America now. Although company's technically Canadian, so I'm in Canadian American. We're also in the US, but when I used to lead a very large organization, we would bring in people like you to coach everybody on speaking skills before conferences.
Yes.
Do you do
Yes.
things like that?
I do, in both capacities. I do that. I go and I speak about, how to be charismatic, how to tell a story, how to engage people, build rapport, how to catch people if you think they're falling off. Let's say there's conversation going on. How do you get that part of the room back? There's a lot of things that I do, and you talk about engagement. So I know that you do a lot of that type of work as well. And I do that. And then I also will bring groups of leaders in to work with the horses. So in both capacities, I work with leaders, and I love doing both. To me, it's always really interesting to get like a bunch of people from an IT company that are leaders and have them trade in their keyboards for dirty horse brushes. And at the end of the day, have them, walk away changed, and in a very good way, not just that they're dusty and dirty. I mean,
So people need to know how to reach you. What
yes.
is the best way to reach you?
Yeah, that's easy. You can find me at sandradeerobinson.com. And for those that are just listening and don't see my name written here, it's Sandra Dee, spelled out like Sandra Dee from Greece, Robinson.com. And on there, you will actually see at the very top, there's an invitation to join my newsletter list. My newsletter is not just a bunch of stuff that I vomit up every week or so. It actually is the way I communicate with the people in my community. So yeah, if any events are coming up, you'll be the first ones to know about it. And you probably get free access to some of the things that I'm doing or collaborating with. But more than that, I share stories, my own personal stories. I share inspiration, motivation that comes from other people that I've met, that I'm working with. And I do that twice a week. I want people to write back to me. So it's a two-way street. My newsletter is actually a communication device between me and the people in my community. So I welcome people to sign up for that. It is free. It's just a great way to find out what all is going on, what events are coming up, or what programs, and it's the best way. Best way.
Cool.
And social media.
So the website one more time, because there are a lot of people listening,
Yes.
although your name, and I get Sandra, can be spelled a little differently.
Yeah.
And you date yourself because not all of our audiences watch Grease.
But there are several different versions of Grease. I think everybody must know one version of it, or they've done a play in school. So
Yeah, that's true. But your
yeah,
website again.
is Sandra, Sandra Dee Robinson, ROBINSON.com, SandraDeeRobinson.com.
And if they
And
go there, they can look for your and sign up for your newsletter.
yeah, it's right up at the top.
And I love the fact that you look at your newsletter as a two-way communication tool, as opposed to a one-way communication tool. And it's not just about advertising. It's really about sharing content and giving gifts to the world.
100%. Nothing makes me feel better than, like, I literally had, and I still kind of can't believe I had this conversation. I had somebody call me up. I'd met him years ago, in a business interaction, and he had gone through a really tough time, health-wise and in addiction, actually. And he said, things got so bad. He says, I want to tell you, he said, your newsletter kept me going.
Wow.
That was humbling because I almost didn't do it.
Yeah.
I had a lot of stuff going that was outside of my comfort zone. I specialize in helping people get outside of their comfort zone. Writing that newsletter, starting that newsletter was way out of my comfort zone. All the stuff that I thought I worked on pops up because that's what it does. That's part of being human, right? You're like, I thought I handled that a long time ago. And then that, little negative voice shows up again, but now I have the tools to handle it. But that was a big step for me because I didn't, all this stuff going, am I really going to serve people with this? And when I get calls like that, I'm glad I did it. I'm really glad I did it.
So Sandra, we're coming to the end, but we always end. If you had one tip to share, what would that one tip be? Please share it with the audience.
Oh, I think the best tip, given what we were talking about today, is to never believe that you are who other people tell you you are. And I say that because a few reasons. Everybody has a story. And if somebody tells you you're at a part of your story, it doesn't matter if you think that you are successful at this moment or that you were successful in the past or you haven't got there yet, you're on a journey. And at any point in that journey, somebody is going to look at you and label you. You're good enough, you're not good enough, you're amazing, you're brilliant, you're infallible, you're a shoo-in for this, you're absolutely fantastic. Know who you are so that no matter what they say to you, you're standing in your own truth. Because I have worked with people and I've done specific trainings around charisma and with other coaches that have sent me down to talk to homeless people on the street. Guess what? They all had a story. They all had something of value. And somebody has been telling them that they don't. And how different that would be if somebody spoke into them words of positivity, for sure. But we all have down times. We may not all end up homeless, but we all have times that don't feel good. And it may be financial, it may be health, it may be ego, it may be whatever it is. We're going to have those days, those months, those years that feel crappy. That's why it's so important to realize whether you're in that space, or I've also spent time talking to people that are very successful actors, well-known faces, celebrities, and sometimes they believe that they are who people tell them they are. And it may not be true, if you know what I mean.
What a great tip. What a fantastic tip.
Mm.
Now, the audience does not know this, but I'm going to just share this. Typically, we talk about the tip in the prep for the show. This was not the tip we talked about, but I always say to people, go with what you feel at the moment.
Yeah.
be prepared to have one, but feel free to change it. It was such a powerful tip. Sandra Dee, it was great to have you.
Thank
I
you.
want to, on behalf of the Learning Network, thank the audience. And because without you, we don't have a show. Of course, I want to thank my friends at C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio. And of course, check us on our new YouTube channel, Training Unleashed Network. And everyone have a great day.